what if you could fix a nation's biggest financial crisis with just one single, bold idea? Well, today we're diving into a plan that suggests exactly that. It's a radical overhaul of a country's entire banking sector, and it all comes from the pages of one book. Let's get into it. So where does this incredibly ambitious blueprint come from? It's all laid out right here in The Architects of Tomorrow by Guru Dilawar Hussain. And this isn't just presented as a book. It's pitched as a strategic roadmap for a total national transformation, all with the goal of building what it calls an enlightened civilization. Right from the very beginning, the book hits you with this powerful idea. It frames its proposals as this urgent, necessary response to a nation at a crossroads. The argument is simple. Deep, systemic problems are holding everything back. And you know what? The time for small, temporary fixes is completely over.
So what exactly is this grand vision? Well, the goal here is, frankly, huge. The whole point is to get the nation on the same level as countries like Japan, Finland, and Singapore, to turn it into a global example of stability and progress. No small feat, right?
Okay, so that's the dream. It's a powerful one. But the book doesn't just float in the clouds. It immediately confronts the single biggest thing standing in the way, asking this really crucial question about a financial crisis that could derail the entire journey. And that obstacle? It's a mountain of bad debt, specifically these things called non-performing loans. The book says this isn't just some boring banking issue. No, it's a full-blown crisis that is actively dragging the entire nation's progress to a halt. Now, for anyone who's not familiar, a non-performing loan, or NPL, is basically a loan that's gone sideways. The person or company who borrowed the money has just stopped paying it back. And when that happens on a huge, massive scale, well, it can absolutely cripple an economy. And the scale we're talking about here is, wow, it's staggering. The book really centers its whole argument around this one number, 3 Lakh Crore Taka. That's tens of billions of dollars in loans that have gone bad. Just think about that. That is an enormous amount of money that's just stuck. It's not fueling growth, it's not creating jobs, it's just sitting there, dead in the water. So you have this gigantic problem. What's the solution? According to the author, you need an equally gigantic solution. He proposes this set of really tough sanctions and reforms called the DAFA 26 proposal. And it's designed to do one thing: force accountability and get that money back. The plan has its own brand, DAFA 26, and that stands for Loan Default Accountability and Reform Initiative. Even the logo tells the story, right? You've got sanctions on travel, on money, and this big push for banks to clean up their act and get a better credit rating. All right, so let's talk about how severe these proposed sanctions actually are, because this is the core of it. First, a complete travel ban for any official involved. Second, their salaries get cut in half, 50%, and stay that way until their bank gets its credit rating up to an A grade. They're also not allowed to just quit their jobs to escape it. And maybe the biggest kicker, anyone who helps an embezzler, they face the exact same level of punishment. This is accountability with very, very sharp teeth. Now, when you hear all that, you're probably thinking the same thing I was. Sanctions this intense? A travel ban? Is that even possible? How on earth could anyone actually put a plan this radical and this far-reaching into motion? And you know what? The book totally anticipates that question. This isn't just some wild idea scribbled on a napkin. It's backed up by a detailed 3-phase roadmap. It's a structured plan designed to take this from just a proposal to actual policy. Let's see how it's supposed to work. The whole thing is broken down into 3 logical stages. First, you build the legal foundation to make it all possible. Second, you implement the plan and you watch it like a hawk. And third, you reform the whole system to make sure this crisis never, ever happens again. So, phase 1 is all the prep work. I mean, you can't just start banning people from traveling or cutting their salaries, right? You have to make sure it's actually legal. This phase means doing a really deep dive into the existing laws and figuring out exactly who counts as an involved official. And this is what I mean by detailed. The plan doesn't just vaguely say, review the laws. No, it specifically calls out which laws need to be reviewed and maybe even changed, from the Bank Company Act to government service rules, just to make sure these new sanctions don't clash with the way things are already set up. Okay, so once all the legal stuff is sorted, phase 2 kicks in. This is the action phase. This is when you start creating verified lists of the people involved, you start the legal process, and this is so crucial for public trust, you publish a progress report every 3 months for the whole world to see. And finally, we get to phase 3. This is all about the future. It's about fixing the system for good. We're talking new, independent risk management committees, forcing personal accountability for every single loan, and setting up special courts to speed up the recovery process. The goal here is prevention, not just punishment. And you see, all of this, the tough sanctions, the legal reviews, the entire 3-phase plan, it all loops right back to the book's original big picture vision. The ultimate goal isn't just about clawing back some money. It's about building a completely new foundation for the country's entire financial system. The end game here is to create a banking sector that's built on these core ideas: real transparency, real accountability, and just plain good governance. The book argues that by forcing these strict ethical standards, you can build what it calls a state of profound trust between regular people, businesses, and the banks they rely on. So, we're left with this final, really provocative thought. The plan laid out in The Architects of Tomorrow is, without a doubt, harsh. It's like shock therapy for a struggling system. And it really makes you wonder, to reach for a nation's biggest dreams, is this kind of radical accountability not just an option, but maybe the necessary price you have to pay for progress?